Emotions. We're created with emotions. But today I'm going to address emotional manipulation during worship. A worship service can be a highly emotional time. The powerful music, crowds of people, the aura of God's majesty, and the turning of one's attention to Him can create intense feelings of joy, anticipation, or even sorrow. Some people weep, some people laugh, some people are vocal, some people shout, dance, run, etc. Some people are unmoved, and all that's okay. The problem comes when leaders of worship services, whether it's the worship leader or the pastor, make a concerted effort to change people's emotions in an attempt to coerce certain behaviors. This is known as emotional manipulation and can be a very harmful action that hijacks true worship. So, why does emotional manipulation happen? Some of us may engage in emotional manipulation without even being expressly aware of it. Why? We confuse emotion with true worship and feel that it's our responsibility to cause such emotions in others. Because of the high associated with emotion, it can sometimes seem as if the emotion itself is a prerequisite for worship or a substitution for worship. Emotion, while not at all wrong, is simply and should simply be a byproduct of worship. In some cases, it can even be disconnected. Even an unbeliever can go into a worship service and feel emotions. It's important for us to remember that worship does not require any certain type of emotion. We want other people to experience the same emotion that we are experiencing. A worship service is a social event. The leaders of such services are trying to do just that, lead. Sometimes, however, this leadership tends towards leading others' emotions rather than leading to the true focus of worshiping God. Also, we mistakenly assume that a state of high emotion is a state where the heart change will be more readily done. Truly, God's work, God does work through emotions, and He uses powerful speakers or songs to prompt change in hearts. However, in some cases, the skills of the speakers and the talents of the musicians combine to stir up strong feelings and cultivate an intentional atmosphere of high emotion. And in such emotional situations, people are much more ready to make a decision. However, in states of high emotion, such decisions may become unmoored from careful thinking or soul searching. An emotional decision is not necessarily a true decision. Why? Because it is a decision predicated on one's emotion alone, exclusive of other critical decision making facilities. We want to feel good about our own leadership abilities, musically or speaking. We feel reciprocated in our efforts when people become highly emotional. We got a response. Any public speaker or musician loves to get a reaction out of people. There's something of a dopamine rush when a speaker can bust out a witty one-liner that causes the crowd to convulse with uncontrollable laughter. In a similar way, the worship leader who croons a convincing tear-jerked cadence can subtly coerce others to become teary-eyed as well. The worship leader feels as if he is successful because he has caused others to feel emotional intensity. Now, while there's nothing wrong with getting a laugh or creating a tear, there begins to be a serious problem when this becomes our motivation and our primary objective in leading worship or in speaking. It shows us that we have misplaced our effort. Rather than attempting to lead people towards Christ or worship, we are focusing on an emotion. These are some unfortunate things that happen intentionally or unintentionally in worship. The problem is compounded because music is an inherently emotional language. Sometimes it's hard not to manipulate. So let's understand what emotion in worship is. What motivates emotions? Emotions can be caused by a variety of factors. First off, we must understand that emotions are part of the human psyche. Humans are made in God's image, as we see in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Therefore, we must accompany the legitimacy of emotions. If we don't accept that, we've got a problem. Now, I've often heard emotions contrasted with logic, stating that emotions are bad and logic is good. Sometimes it takes a derogatory comment like, men are logical, but women are emotional. Well, neither emotion nor logic is superior to the other, and to compare them is foolishness. Both are good. There are, of course, inhibitory emotions that can create negative feelings and behaviors. At the same time, emotions can have a positive impact and result in good behavior. In Scripture, we read of God having emotions that relate to human emotions. For example, God has anger. Look at Psalm chapter 11, verse 5. Compassion. Genesis chapter 19, verse 16. God has sorrow. Genesis chapter 6, verse 6. And joy. Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 10. Looking at Jesus' life, he acted with emotion as he cried at a friend's death, John 11:35. And he cleansed out the temple crooks with holy zeal in Matthew chapter 21, verses 12 through 16, also seen in John chapter 2, verses 13 through 22. Emotions are highly individualized. Emotions are as varied, complex, and unique as the people who experience them. Just because one person isn't outwardly expressive in worship doesn't mean that they aren't worshiping in a rightful way. Emotions in worship are okay. God created emotion. He uses emotion in our lives. Emotions, just like every bit of us, can and should be a part of our worship of God. Worship, stripped of ordinary human emotions, may be unnatural and strained, while on the other hand, worship that is crammed with emotionally manipulative tricks is artificial and disingenuous. Now, emotions in worship aren't required. There may be people who aren't quite as emotional as you or I. These are people who are seldom carried away with their emotions, who find it weird or awkward to express or even to feel much emotion in worship. But that doesn't make them any less worshipful. Worship doesn't require emotions, but it may include emotions. And it may result in emotions. So in conclusion, we should learn to accept the range of emotions in worship. At the same time, we need to take care to not try to force people into any emotional state. The peril of both manipulatively emotional worship and emotionally sterile worship is false worship. Thank you.